Governments will screw it up, totally screw it up. We can't have government running big projects. It has to be a private sector investment without government handouts.
Ooh, it is a bad day to be a liberal. I will tell you that much for free. We have the foreign interference inquiry. The report is out. I watched the whole press conference this morning. And make no mistake, the commissioner here lit Justin Trudeau up. Also, some interesting news that's coming out of British Columbia that I'm like, is this fake news? I don't believe that this is real. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. I'm so excited to talk about all of this with you today because it is just, what world is this? Things are changing, okay? That's the best way that I can summarize it. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts down below, and give me a follow on other social media platforms as well. Oh yeah, and P.S. I do have a little bit more of a personal message for the end of this video. Call it an update, I suppose. So if you don't care about that at all, that's a-okay with me. I'm not forcing you to do anything. This is your life to live. But if you do want to listen to that, stick around to the end of this video. First and foremost, we have some updates on the Trump tariff threat. This clip I'm about to show you came out like, I don't know, a week or two ago or something, but it is very relevant today.
And it feels very strange to say, but I really do think that for Canadians right now, when you're planning your March break vacations, when you're planning your summer vacations, if the tariff threat is realized, the deliberate economic attack on families in our province, in our country, by the President of the United States, that we should really be thinking carefully about spending our money in that country.
We hear it all the time. We just finished hearing about it a lot during the holidays when everybody's like, shop local, support local, blah, blah, blah. Now, the problem that Canadians have in terms of supporting local is the fact that a lot of things in this country are not 100% local. They just aren't. You know, like, yeah, sure, it could be from a local wholesaler, retailer, whatever, designer, but like there's parts of it that's very much weaved into predominantly the US, oftentimes also China. We actually saw a very good example of this just recently with Doug Ford's Canada's Not for Sale hat.
Standing up for the country.
When Ontario's premier wore this ball cap last week with the words Canada is not for sale, sales of those hats skyrocketed.
Many tens of thousands of hats have been sold directly to customers.
But while embroidered here, the hats themselves are mostly made overseas in places like Bangladesh.
Canada and the USA are so intertwined. Canada especially is so dependent on the USA. It's just unreal. And here's the thing that's kind of interesting. So the premier of BC says, yeah, you guys should probably avoid traveling to the USA. You should avoid, doing business with them because of these Trump tariffs. And I found this on X. This is from Ryan, who said, there's no reason our media would push out stories like this other than to steer sentiments and change behavior through manipulation. CTV News posted today, travel agent sees clients cancel trips to Hawaii after BC urges vacationers to avoid the US. And then they did this interview, I suppose, with the manager of this particular travel group who says that there's a lot of people that are actively avoiding the US and that they're going elsewhere. Then CTV News took that information and was like, oh, this is because of what the premier said about how we shouldn't go to the United States for vacations. Meanwhile, it's like, well, can we just talk about real life for a second? Why would people be avoiding traveling to the United States right now? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because our dollar is worth nothing there and everything is almost 50% more expensive. Maybe that's why. Just maybe. Maybe it actually has nothing to do with the fact that the premier said don't travel there. And it has everything to do with the fact that Justin Trudeau has destroyed the value of the Canadian dollar. Maybe that's it. As we are just days away from another potential Trump tariff threat, here's what the White House had to say about this earlier today.
Yeah.
Should those countries expect that?
Again, he was asked and answered this question this past weekend when he took a lot of questions from the press, and he said that the February 1st date for Canada and Mexico still holds.
And in response to this, a source has reported that the federal government is planning pandemic level relief if Trump tariffs go ahead. This is a multi-billion-dollar relief program for workers and businesses akin to those implemented during the global health crisis, should the U.S. President Donald Trump enact a 25% tariff on Canadian goods. However, this initiative does require legislative approval from Parliament, which is not possible until after March 24th. And from the Globe and Mail, I quote, "The source said the aid package could be ready to roll out once Parliament resumes, but it would require cooperation from the opposition parties in that they would have to delay their declared intention of bringing down the minority Liberal government until relief legislation is adopted." So there you have it. The Trudeau Liberals are planning COVID-level spending in exchange for opposition parties to not bring down their government. And of course, they will then say, oh, they're so against Canadians and helping Canadians. You already know exactly how they'll spin this because they've done this oh so very many times. And yep, this would absolutely obliterate our economy even more than tariffs and counter tariffs already will. And to provide you with a little bit of hopeful relief, here is Pierre Poilievre discussing how he plans to help our economy rather than continuously borrow and print money that we don't have and, create all this inflation and crippling debt and just the situation that we're in today.
If you become prime minister, would you try and create that pipeline, get a company to do it, or would you use federal power to just make it a federal operation? What would you do?
I wouldn't make it a federal operation. Governments will screw it up, totally screw it up. We can't have government running big projects. It has to be a private sector investment without government handouts. And the good news is that pipelines are wildly profitable, so they don't need government subsidies. What they need are permits. And we need to create a fastest permitting anywhere in the developed world for pipelines, mines, LNG plants, other economic infrastructure that will allow us not only to harvest our resources, but to keep the value-added jobs here in Canada. We have the second slowest building permits in the OECD. We should be the fastest place. And when we do that, then the investment will come in and the jobs will be incredible.
There's definitely more to get into regarding the relief fund of pandemic era that the Liberals are reportedly planning, as well as some other commentary from other people. But I'm going to save that for tomorrow's video because we have to get into the final report on foreign interference. What a bombshell.
Attempts to curry favor or develop problematic relationship with the parliamentarian have come to light. Such phenomena remain marginal and so far appear to have been largely ineffective. Some may have benefited from the support of a foreign state, sometimes without knowing anything about it. But again, so far, this does not seem to have led to any real gains for the states involved. Nor have I seen any evidence to suggest that there are currently so-called traitors in Parliament. While I saw evidence of some concerning behavior, the evidence does not show any MPs plotting with foreign states against Canada's interest.
My oh my, these certainly did not age very well at all.
That the allegations the NCCOP raises also touch the Conservative leadership race. The idea that a foreign government was involved in the selection of the leader of the Conservative Party is deeply concerning, to which a foreign government was involved in the selection of the leader of the Conservative Party. That is something Canadians ought to know. That's why we were writing that letter demanding its inclusion into the public inquiry.
Nor have I seen any evidence to suggest that there are currently so-called traitors in Parliament.
I have the names of a number of parliamentarians, former parliamentarians and or candidates in the Conservative Party of Canada who are engaged or at high risk of, or for whom there is clear intelligence around foreign interference. And I have directed CSIS and others to try and inform the Conservative Party leader to be warned and armed to be able to make decisions that protect the integrity of that party. And the decision by the leader of the Conservative Party to not get those classified briefings means that nobody in his party, not him, nobody in a position of power, knows the names of these individuals and can take appropriate action. It also means nobody's there to stand up for those individuals if the intelligence is shoddy or incomplete or just allegations from a single source. We are ready to question intelligence when it comes towards the Liberal Party members, because we need to make sure if you're going to end someone's career, you're doing it in a responsible way. The decision of the leader of the Conservative Party to not receive the necessary clearance to get those names and protect the integrity of his party.
I don't know, like, doesn't it just seem kind of weird that he goes and says all of that, which he knew was being filmed, he knew would be clipped, he knew would be advantageous for him politically, which it certainly has been. The fear-mongering of Russian interference has worked so very well. It's very odd that he would do all of those things if the intel and 16-month-long investigation would conclude that, yep, it's not an issue at all, actually. That's a weird thing to do, right? To think that you have such strong ground to make the statements that you did, create the division that you did, create the fear amongst your people that you did, when the information that you had was nothing. We are going to get into some of the nitty gritty absolute bombshells that were dropped on the Trudeau Liberal government during today's press conference about the report. But I did first just want to say that the Trudeau Liberals and NDP have made this whole thing this huge issue that only affects the Conservative Party, by the way. Like, Justin Trudeau says that he has the names of the traitors in Parliament. Well, we know that that's not true. And he says that, oh, well, Poilievre just has to get a security clearance and then we'll all be protected. Well, we know that that's not true. But they always make it sound like it's just the Conservatives here and foreign interference is so huge, it's so rampant. In reality, though, as of today, not a single Canadian minister or political leader has ever been formally charged or penalized for their involvement in foreign interference, okay? So, yeah, this is a pretty big non-issue. Not to say that foreign interference isn't an issue. Of course it is. That is an issue. It affects every political party in some way, shape, or form. But this is an incredible learning moment of just how effective propaganda is. Like, think about all the people that you know even who have mentioned things about Russian interference, Russian propaganda. Oh, they're paid by Russia. Think about all the stuff that happened with, what the hell is that company called? Tenet Media, Lauren Southern in Parliament, where the rhetoric there was that conservatives only have conservative values because of Russian interference, which is even more hilarious, actually, because according to this report, the biggest government bodies involved in foreign interference was not Russia. Russia was on the list, as well as Iran and Pakistan. Iran, obviously, we know that they are. Look at the protests in the streets. But the biggest ones were India and China, not even Russia. So why is Justin Trudeau going off? He knows all these things, right? Why would he be going off about Russian foreign interference amongst the Conservative Party when, with the information that he has with his security clearance, the biggest players were India and China, but he made it a point to say Russia and the Conservatives. Like, think about that. Why would he do that?
What Justice Hogue has highlighted, I think one of the biggest points that she made in her report was the deep concern she has regarding misinformation and disinformation, particularly on social media, and how we do not have tools right now to combat that, and it is rampant. The amount of misinformation that is available is rampant, and that is a serious concern for democracy and for an upcoming election.
So as he said there, Justice Hogue said that the biggest threat to democracy is misinformation and disinformation. That's what she was able to get from this entire report. So what is the Liberal government response going to be to that? Oh, I don't know, maybe censor more people on social media. That's the thing. Misinformation, disinformation. We're grown-ups. Like, if somebody is going to fall into a trap of believing something that is just blatantly false when they could go and do their due diligence to search it, that falls on them. That's not for the government to control, full stop. Like, in what world does the government get to decide what is true and what is false? What's misinformation and disinformation versus what is true? And so if you have a government then who determines that they are the supreme power of truth, that's not what a government is supposed to do, actually. We are free peoples. We are free individuals with thinking brains of our own. And here's a very wild section of this. It says, Hogue said this may have been the case when a disinformation campaign followed Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after he announced Canada had evidence linking India to the death of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar, though the report notes no definitive link to a foreign state could be proven. So why did you say that? Why on earth would you say that, oh, well, do you remember when everybody was really mad at Justin Trudeau and writing mean things about him on the internet after he alleged that India was involved with that, even though there actually isn't any credible evidence at all for what he said, just as how there wasn't any credible evidence at all for how he said that, it was Pierre Poilievre. You're doing a report on foreign interference after a 16-month-long investigation. And if you can't prove that there's any interference, why would you make that point? She goes on to say, if we do not find ways of addressing it, misinformation and disinformation have the ability to distort our discourse, change our views, and shape our society. Yeah, they sure do. So I'm just wondering, when Jagmeet Singh, when the entire Liberal caucus are going to come forward and say, hey, conservatives, when we said that the only reason why you're conservative is because of Russian propaganda, because you're being paid by Russia. All conservative content creators and influencers, it's only because of Russia. That's the only reason why you exist, because nobody would be conservative if it wasn't for Russian interference, of course, because liberalism is the only way. Wow, does that ever sound authoritarian to me? So you know what? Yeah, this report definitely confirmed that Justin Trudeau's misinformation, disinformation, and hate-filled campaigns against conservatives in Canada, conservatives in the United States of America, how much that has absolutely distorted our discourse. It's changed the views. It has shaped our society. Isn't it weird how back in the day you could have friends from all over who believed in all sorts of different things, and you could still be friends? And nowadays, if somebody finds out that you're a conservative, they immediately distance themselves from you. They immediately attack you. They want you to lose your job. Yeah, I would say that Justin Trudeau's disinformation campaign about conservatism has been very effective. She also said that she has observed that the government has sometimes taken too long to act and that coordination between various players involved has not always been optimal. She actually called the Liberal government, and I quote, poor communicator and insufficiently transparent when it comes to foreign interference. The report warns that while intelligence can be extremely valuable in informing government and enabling it to develop policy, the frailties of intelligence make it dangerous to rely on unquestioned. This is particularly true for intelligence that may suggest misconduct by individuals, such as the involvement of individual parliamentarians in foreign interference activities. Hogue wrote that the NSICOP report cast a cloud of suspicion over all parliamentarians and, as a result, contributed to the erosion of Canadians' trust in their democratic institutions, adding, the situation is not as clear-cut nor as extreme as the fears provoked by the NSICOP report. We are definitely going to have a lot more about this report and some more reactions and things as it continues to develop, as well as a very thick line drawn in the sand that Quebec has towards their province's immigrants. That is coming up in tomorrow's episode of Over Opinionated. I'm Jasmine Lane. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and please comment your thoughts down below. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about all of this stuff. Now, I promised a bit of a personal message, so if you're still here, thank you so much. I did just want to say quickly, last night, we reached 50,000 subscribers, which is just I can't even comprehend that. I started this channel not even a year ago. And when I first started it, I didn't think that I was even going to surpass 100 views, let alone 1,000, let alone 50,000 subscribers. And truly, it's been the greatest blessing and honor to be able to share all of this stuff with you, to have conversations that really matter, and for them to have been received as well as they have, and all of the people who have shared their stories with me and taught me things in the comments or in emails. It's just an incredible learning experience that I've had, and I just want to thank you seriously. I wanted to, from the bottom of my heart, but we saw how that went with Elon, so I'm not going to do that. When I first started this, I was in one of the lowest places ever, working as a broadcaster and just being so stomped on and pushed out. And it was so depressing. Like, I was on my last straw for sure with how I was feeling. And I did this as an attempt because at that point in time, I had been so convinced by the people around me that I couldn't hold conversations anymore, that I was irrelevant, I wasn't funny, that I was stupid. So many things that I would say would be spun in a way that would make me sound or look bad. And it was just horrible what that did to my mental health. And I started YouTube solely to try to learn how to have a conversation again. As a broadcaster, that's my job, is to be able to connect and share and storytell. And like I said, I really had been so manipulated and convinced that I couldn't do any of those things anymore by the people around me. And it's just incredible to see how much my life has changed. And, going independent full-time on YouTube is something I would have never imagined I could have done, let alone be relatively successful at. I can't emphasize enough how unbelievably depressed I was when I first started YouTube. And it was just such a last-ditch effort for me to try to feel like I still had it, And so just the response from this, it has literally, I'm sensitive. I know I'm over opinionated and I'm overly sensitive sometimes, but it's brought me to tears more times than I can count, just how immensely grateful I am for this journey and for you for being here. So again, thank you. Thank you so much. You've changed my life. So thank you so much. I'm getting teary-eyed. Okay, I'm leaving now. I guess we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers now, which is just unfathomable. But whoa, God bless you. Thank you so much.
This one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.